The daily word today is truth, and we are all truth seekers, aren't we? The light of truth shines in my heart. I take comfort in spiritual truth. God is changeless, my rock and refuge in times of struggle, and the wings that lift me in times of ease and bliss. I remain steady and calm, even as I navigate life's inevitable changes, finding lasting comfort in the truth of God as absolute goodness. As I travel along my unique path, the steady light of truth shines from within me. Yet, I am writing you a new commandment that is true in him and in you, because the darkness is passing away and the true light is already shining. And that verse comes from 1 John chapter 2, verse 8. And the word is, "A light of truth shines in my heart." And it is in this consciousness that we bless the names of the people and pets in the prayer box, and those prayer requests that you have on your hearts, knowing that as we speak our affirmations and pray today, we hold each prayer in that healing and magnificent light of peace. We share our love and kindness through our prayers. And I like to say, dear Father, Mother God, thank you. Thank you for every blessing in our lives. We are thankful for every miracle, for each moment that gives us the choice to reveal our true nature. We are thankful for each breath that allows us to live fully in that divine truth. We take time and center ourselves in the divine presence of God as we reach out with healing love and goodness to anyone who might be hurting. When we cannot physically be with someone, we know the truth of divine compassion and healing, and affirm your loving presence in each person on the planet. May every soul in this moment know the peace that passes understanding, that we are all children of God, and that each of us is loved beyond measure, and love always prevails. And now I invite you to repeat our affirmations after me. And when I say these, I really want to look at them with a fresh eye, because they're so powerful. And in this world, we need to understand our oneness, and that is in God. And we say, there is only one presence, one power, and one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. Can you say that with me? There is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. And that spreads out to those in our community. There is only one presence, one power, one love active in your life, God, the good, omnipotent. And affirm with me, please. There is only one presence, one power, one love active in your life, God, the good, omnipotent. And it doesn't stop there. There is only one presence, one power, and one love active in this ministry, God, the good, omnipotent. And affirm with me, there is only one presence, one power, one love active in this ministry, God, the good, omnipotent. And finally, there is only one presence, one power, one love, active in the world today, God the good, omnipotent. And together we affirm, there is only one presence, one power, one love, active in the world today, God the good, omnipotent. Thank you, Father, Mother, God. Amen. Now, Marty, do you have some announcements for us?
Thank you, Esther. Good morning, everyone. Good morning on this lovely, bright, sunshiny, liquidy sunshiny morning. If you're not here in Sacramento, we have a little rain going on today, and it's quite beautiful and magnificent. June rain is a special gift, and we're grateful for that. A couple of announcements. As always, I want to invite us to join our Thursday morning prayer group. Thursdays at 9 a.m., basically about a half an hour on the Uber conference line. Come and join your prayer consciousness with ours. We appreciate your being with us. If you don't have access to the Uber conference line, it is published in the weekly e-blast. And as always, we bless and thank Suzanne for being such a loving guardian of our communications. Thank you, Suzanne, for that. We mentioned last time we were together that at the end of this month, we're going to be having a very special guest speaker, a guy that you may have heard of named Phil Pearson. So we look forward to that. And speaking of Pearson, Karen wanted me to point out a couple of books around the book table. And one of my favorites, Keeping Close in Prayer by Dorothy Pearson. It's a collection of columns that she wrote after Phil and Dorothy left Christ Unity and did their Prove Me Now ministry out of Seattle. And it's full of color pictures of, your picture might be in here, my picture's in here, it's kind of cool. So, yeah, I'm not identified appropriately, but just kidding. And on the kids' table, I Am Love, the book of compassion by Susan Verdi. So the kids' table continues to take over more and more of the adult space, which appropriate. Jesus said, unless you become like a little child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. So it's perfect. Thank you, Karen, for that. And those are our announcements. So as Esther said, as we prepare now for meditation, we're going to sing together number 47 and number 4. I think it's number 4. Holy, holy, holy. And shall we rise? Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, early in the morning our song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, which word and evermore shall be. Holy, 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 all the saints adore thee, casting down their golden crowns around the glassy sea. Cherubim and seraphim, falling down before thee, which word and art
get us in the moment to understand the presence of God in this place. I love it that you mentioned the book table that we have in the children's books. And last week or the week before, I picked up one of those books, and I'm going to use that in part of our meditation because we all have a child within us. And I think it's important that that child be recognized. I want to say I loved the song that we just sang in the first verse, which is relevant. Early in the morning, our song shall rise to thee. Surely this is a sacred moment as we continue to sing, merciful and mighty, which wert and art, and evermore shall be. God is not here only yesterday, or not just today as we worship together, but evermore shall be, evermore. He is always present, and surely the presence of the Lord is in this place as we feel our oneness with each other and all who are not able to be with us in person. Our time of meditation is a time to set aside everything and anything that distracts us from being present in the moment and ready to go deeper to feel our protection with God. It is a time to relax. Let any tension or concerns leave our bodies as we get ready to breathe in His love, His compassion, His power, and His will. And let our own separate thoughts dissipate into thin air. We discovered that this may happen best when we lay our hands loosely on our lap and our feet firmly on the ground. Enjoy this opportunity to take in a deep, cleansing breath. Hold it for a few moments. Enjoy expanding your lungs with renewed energy. And then, when you are ready, release that energy and take in more again and again. As you continue breathing in and out, I want to take you on a trip to visit the grandfather tree, a meditation for the child in each of you. All of us are young at heart and never get tired of exploring life through the eyes of a child, as expressed by Maureen Garth in her book, Starlight, Meditations for Children. She writes, "The air is so fresh and clean. The perfume of the flowers is rich, and the sun, a huge golden ball, sending down a very gentle heat. The trees are waving their arms in welcome. They have been waiting for you to come into their special garden. And the trees want to talk to you. If you listen, you can hear them saying, 'Come to me, come to me.' There is one tree that stands out from the others. He is very, very old. He is the grandfather of all the trees, and he is full of knowledge and wisdom. There is nothing this tree doesn't know. He has been watching what happens around him ever since he was a young sapling. He has a very thick trunk and big, roots going out through the earth. These roots push the earth up, making mounds big enough to sit on. This grandfather tree has plenty of branches with beautiful green leaves. So many leaves, it is a wonder he can hold the branches as high in the air as he does. The breeze is rustling the grass, and the leaves of the tree are making sounds that are like the purest music one could imagine. I want you to walk up to the grandfather tree. As you approach the trunk of this tree, you will see there is a door with a little handle. I want you to open this door and go inside. Close the door quietly behind you now, and you will find the inside of the tree is lit with a golden glow. In this glow, you can see passageways going through the branches. There is also another pathway going down the trunk into the roots. Why don't you go and investigate? You have plenty of time to choose which way to go. I wonder what you will find. I think there are rooms off these passageways that hold all sorts of knowledge. Some have lots of toys. There are always people around to keep you company whom you can talk to. They will be able to answer your questions. If you want to remain on your own, you only have to say so, and you can go into the room of your choice and do the things you most want to do. I shall now leave you for a few moments to explore your special tree. And although I invite you to return back to your seats for this adventure, I hope you see the connection between the grandfather tree and our Heavenly Father, who welcomes us into his loving branches and has a safe place for us to come and sit a while under his everlasting arms. Peace is ours anytime we want to visit the tree again and restore our spirits in a place of rest. Welcome back. And now it's my privilege to have Marty share his spirit with all of us with his message.
Thank you, Esther. You know, I've been meaning to talk to all the people that lead meditations. Don't lead meditations so powerful that coming away from them is unpleasant. When I was a kid, I was captivated by the movie Swiss Family Robinson. Remember that movie, the great tree house that they built in all of the parts of the ship? That's where I wanted to go. The pastor explained at the end of the service, we are going to conduct a church board meeting instantly after the service. And as soon as the service was ended, everyone from the church board came to the sanctuaries back to attend the declared meeting. But there was an unknown visitor who showed up in their midst, and a person who had never been seen at that church before. On noticing that person, the pastor said, "Aren't you aware that this is a board meeting?" The visitor replied, "Of course. And after attending the current sermon, I believe I am quite bored like everyone else in this board meeting." After another service at a stranger approached the pastor and said, I'd like you to pray for my hearing. The pastor placed his hands on the man's ears and said a passionate, earnest prayer. How's your hearing now? The pastor said. Well, looking surprised, the man said, well, it's not till tomorrow. And speaking of putting hands on ears, I forgot to mention during the announcements that Jackie is here for anyone who would like prayer support at the end of the service as our chaplain. So please feel free to come on up here if you want to share a prayer request or a breakthrough or whatever it is. Please join Jackie and she'd be happy to pray with you. So, I'm beginning my last month as principal speaker here at Capital City Unity, and so I'd like to share with us some of the things that I've learned over the past 3.5 years since I took on this role. Like so many things that happened to us over the course of our lifetimes, finding myself in this position was totally and completely unexpected. Yes, Dorothy Pearson had called me to the ministry several decades earlier, but I never felt called to really be a unity minister. I certainly prayerfully considered it, but something always seemed to hold me back. It's true, I enjoyed serving on the boards of both Christ Unity Church and this ministry here at Capital City Unity. I've loved these ministries. I've loved the message, which is very challenging and enlivening. I've loved learning and praying with all the men and women who have attended these churches. And I've loved meeting many great ministers and leaders, all of whom taught me something useful. Now, after I decided to leave Christ Unity, I spent many years without a church. That didn't bother me so much because I continued my spiritual work in my men's group, which Jim Lee had helped us start back in Christ Unity days. And it was there I met John Donovan, who I consider my current spiritual mentor, who taught me all about the subconscious mind and the role it plays in spiritual healing. But when Phil Pearson decided to return to Sacramento and start this ministry, of course, like many of us, I jumped at the chance to join in. Phil is not only a powerful and clear voice for explaining our unity message, he's also a living connection through his wife Dorothy to our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, who mentored Dorothy in the last years of his life. Now, it may seem grandiose, but I claim that we all here, by virtue of our connection with Phil, are only 2 degrees of separation from Charles Fillmore. And not many other Unity ministers can claim the same. Now, maybe Unity of Auburn has a similar distinction because Reverend Sri Larkin was also from that direct lineage, having grown up in Christ Unity, also being mentored by the Pearsons. She, of course, served as our minister here after Phil stepped down. But it was her unexpected decision to step away from the pulpit in November of 2018 that opened the way for my service as our principal speaker. Now, when Phil started this church, he asked me if I would serve on the founding board of trustees, which, of course, I said yes. That first board was loaded with former board presidents and members from Christ Unity, so there was a depth of spiritual maturity to support Phil's vision. So when he felt a call from Unity Village and decided to resign to explore that opportunity, the board began to discuss the question of who we are as a ministry without Phil. The Spirit moved us to begin to consider consider ourselves as a congregational ministry. That is a church where, as Dorothy Pearson used to proclaim, everyone is the minister. Now, such a vision is radically different from the standard church model, where the minister or the priest is the center of the church's identity and authority. Now, many such churches become minister dependent. Many Unity churches of my acquaintance have ministers with powerful and dynamic personalities, and so they seem to come to dominate the church. There's nothing wrong with this. It's a model that's been used in churches for centuries all around the world. But when Phil left, and his is one of those dominant personalities that people look up to, the board began to ask ourselves if perhaps we might consider different perspective. After all, there was no really replacing Phil. Phil is a unique individual who brought decades of spiritual discipline and study to his work, and there was no one else like him waiting in the rings. This is not a knock on Cherie, who stepped up to the plate when Phil left. Just an acknowledgement that Phil's sudden departure, after being the church founder and the church identity, offered us the opportunity to think about church and ministry in a different way. Now, we know that the early Christians operated on a more democratic principle. Jesus' ministry was, in contrast to the Jewish tradition from which he came, a universal one. All people were enfolded in the eternal love of God. No one was higher or lower than anyone else. And for example, in his first letter, St. Peter addresses his Christian comrades with these words. He says, "But you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of the darkness into his marvelous light." And John starts the book of Revelation with a dedication to Jesus, who, quote, hath made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. So we on the board asked ourselves, what kind of church would we have if we thought about everyone who entered into it as a king and a priest unto God our Father? So when Cherie left, and the board asked me to step in, we had the opportunity to find out. Because it became our vision and philosophy that as a congregation of ministers, any one of us could step up here to this pulpit on any given Sunday and share some wisdom from our years of experience as church students. Any one of us. Now, I don't have a ministerial degree from the Unity School of Practical Christianity, and neither do Catherine, or Esther, or Suzanne, or Claudia, or Connie, or Tom, or Gail, all of whom have prepared and shared Sunday meditations or lessons with us. But I have been a serious student and practitioner of what Myrtle and Charles Fillmore discovered and taught for over 30 years now. Do you remember our survey from a couple of years ago that discovered that together, we as a congregation have a collective 2,000 years of unity practice? That's a powerful foundation on which to build a church. And we were well on our way to exploring the implications of this commitment to becoming a congregational, paging Dr. Freud, becoming a congregational ministry when COVID hit. Like every single cultural, social, political, and spiritual institution in this country and around the world, we found ourselves thrown for a loop. We had to scramble to maintain ourselves as an active church that could no longer gather together in this beautiful space every Sunday to worship as a community. And of course, with God's help, we figured it out. So now, as we approach yet another turning point as a congregation, let us consider what we have, what we know, what we can rely on as we consider our future. So I think one of the things that my experience here over the past 3.5 years has truly revealed to me is this: there is only God. God is all there is. Wherever we look, either inside of ourselves or outside, in truth, all we are seeing is God. And we must take this a step deeper, my friends. Not only is all that we see God, but it is God himself doing the seeing through us. My friends, when we declare, as we do every Sunday, as we did this morning, that there is only one presence, one power, one love active in my life, active in the world today, we are stating a truth so powerful, so pervasive, so overwhelming that our human selves simply cannot take it in. Because if there is only one presence, one power, love in the entire universe, then that presence, power and love is not just in me, in you, in everybody. That presence, power, and love is who we are. Contrary to the beliefs that we were brought up with, we are, each of us, nothing more and nothing less than God. Everything happening in and around me, happening in and around you, around us, around everybody, is simply God expressing in these wonderfully different but divine ways. In the last movement of his Ninth Symphony, Beethoven sets to music a poem by the German writer Friedrich Schiller called the Ode to Joy, in which Schiller calls the joy of our very existence Götterfunken, Freude schöner Götterfunken, which in English means God sparks. God sparks. We are sparks of God, shimmering and glowing in a forest of God sparks. We are notes in the divine symphony. We are flowers in God's garden. We are God's beloved. We are rays of the divine sun. The challenge is not merely to believe this. Belief is only the beginning. It's true that we start with the challenge of faith, for our statement of faith opens the doors of our hearts to the possibility of feeling our divinity. But the work, as our Unity co-founders told us over and over and over again, is to change our thoughts, change our feelings to align with this infinite truth of our being, to know this as our everyday experience. I am God expressing as me. I am God expressing as me. Would you be willing to affirm this with me? I am God expressing as me. But one more time, as we do this, what I'd like us to do is just notice what happens in our body when we claim, I am God expressing as me. Together, I am God expressing as me. What do you feel when you make this declaration? Do you feel your heart opening? Do you feel a sense of joy and peace flooding your body? Do you hear your mind say, yes, indeed? Or do you feel a tightening in your chest, a resistance in your gut? Do you hear your mind saying, no, 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 or that's blasphemy? Well, I certainly still have that nagging voice that says, you can't say that. You're not only not God, you are as far from God as can be. Now, I assert that any resistance that we feel when we affirm that whatever we are experiencing is nothing more or less than the one presence, the one power, the one love that is God, that resistance is also a divine experience. My resistance, my lack of faith, my determination to stay separate from God is every bit as divine an experience as is the joy of falling in love, of listening to a Beethoven symphony, of beholding the Grand Canyon, of standing beneath Yosemite Falls. It's all God. It's all God, including the voice in my head that says, no, it's not. It's all God. So how do we deal with that impoverished part of ourselves that seems so determined to stay aloof from our essence, to keep away from the God of our being, to hide from the radiant fires of God's ever-flowing love? Well, how about we simply ask for illumination? As the song goes, open my eyes that I may see glimpses of truth thou hast for me. Whenever we notice ourselves resisting God, we can simply ask God to affirmatively presence himself in our experience. We can borrow Charles Fillmore's great affirmation, I am now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of love, life, and wisdom. What I've learned during my time in this position is that everything in my daily experience is God expressing. All of me is God expressing. All of you is God expressing. Global political turmoil is God expressing. Higher gas prices are God expressing. School shootings are God expressing. Beautiful music is God expressing. People driving carelessly on the freeway are God expressing. Every feeling in my body, every thought in my head, every spark of intuition in my mind, all God expressing. Now, I've learned to surrender all my resistance into the loving arms of God within. It doesn't really matter in the final analysis what my mind is thinking. For any time that thoughts of separation, of lack and limitation, of doubt, of death itself show up, I have trained these thoughts to become just another opportunity to surrender to the God who lives, moves, and has its being in me, even as I live, move, and have my being in God. There is no difference, except in consciousness, between you, me, the universe, and God. The only question is whether I want to let God be God in me or not. Now, this is not an insight unique to unity. This is an ancient insight. For example, there lived in 13th century Germany a humble priest who utterly and completely got and felt this truth of the living God indwelling himself in the world. His name was Meister Eckhart. And he put it this way: God has given birth to the Son, S-O-N, to the Son as you, as me, as each one of us. As many beings are, as many gods in God. In my soul, God not only gives birth to me as his Son, he gives birth to me as himself, and himself as me. In this divine birth, Meister Eckhart says, I find that God and I are the same. I am what I am and what I shall remain now and forever. I am transported above the highest angels. I neither increase nor decrease, for in this birth I have become the motionless cause of all that moves. I have won back what has always been mine. Here in my soul, the greatest miracles of all has taken place. God has returned to God. God has returned to God in me. Now, can we affirm this for ourselves? Can we affirm and feel this truth that here in our own souls, the greatest of all miracles has taken place? God has returned to God in me. Now, I love what May Rowland, the longtime director of Silent Unity, says in her meditation, I feel the presence of God, which I invite you to listen to on the Truth Unity website and hear this in her own voice. But this is what she says. People talk about God, but many times never feel his presence. Pray until you feel his presence enfolding you. It is not lip service, but feeling that brings results. Your appreciation of the presence of God helps you to see all of life differently. No matter how discordant things may appear to you, try living in the beautiful world God has given us. And to everyone he has given the chance to enjoy and appreciate it. Hate, war, and poverty are not of God's planning, but come into expression through our lack of love and understanding. So May Rowland, I think, hits it on the head. Feeling is key. And the good news is that we are always feeling. Our bodies are emotional tuning forks. All we have to do is to notice how we are feeling. And then affirm, I am in the presence of pure being. If I'm feeling unhappy, I am in the presence of pure being. If I'm feeling scared, I am in the presence of pure being. If I wonder how I'm going to pay for gas in September, I am in the presence of pure being. If I'm feeling poorly and I fear my death might be coming on, I am in the presence of pure being. There's only God. There's only pure being. So anytime we find ourselves resisting this truth that we are actually God, experiencing God as our individual selves, we simply pray. I surrender my resistance. I let go and let God be God in me. I surrender my resistance. I let go and let God be God in me. So, dearly beloved, as we contemplate changes in our ministry, let us affirm that everything is in divine order, for it's all God. It's God looking at changes. Anytime we might feel fear or disappointment, we simply open our hearts to the sweet hour of prayer and let God be God in us. I let God be God in me. Do you affirm that with me? I let God be God in me. And as I let God be God in me, all fear, all doubt disappears. And only the radiance of God's endless love is what I'm feeling in my heart, in my soul, in my gut. For God is all there is. And I invite us to put a seal to this through song as we sing together number 88, The Sweet Hour of Prayer. Let this prayer be a sweet voice on our tongue. Shall we rise? Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, enfolded in the presence where of one who fills with truth and light, the one who works with wondrous might. The stillness of this silent hour brings peace to will and conscious power. The time of silence is to me eternal joy and harmony. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, in love with all and everywhere. The universe is but the whole of all that is in man's pure soul. Through Christ the truth I now behold, the brotherhood of man unfold, and thinks this loving thought and feels the beauty Christ our truth reveals. Sweet hour of prayer, sweet hour of prayer, into the secret place repair. I feel that quickening life of thine, and know that thine is also mine. The light of truth is now revealed. I sing with joy, for I am healed. The glory of the Lord I see, but one within I'm kept serene.
Message, Marty, and just one I needed to hear. There are so many times I'm filled with resistance. Oh no, not me. Oh no, not me. And when the change was made and we were all declared ministers. I mean, can you imagine how Marty would be if he'd gone to Unity Village and became a real minister? But he already was, and you already are. We all are, and that's the beauty of being here. Well, what did I have to say about the offering? This is not my favorite part.
Got some resistance?
Some resistance. But this is a special time in our service when we get to give. I often say that when I first came to Unity, I was so impressed by the words spoken at offering time. We give in love because we love to give. And I thought, what? There aren't any pledges, there aren't any fundraisers. I can't believe this. We give in love because we love to give, and that still stands true today. All we have is God's, and it's our opportunity to share. So I invite the ushers to come to take our offering for us.
As I said last time we were together, brothers and sisters on Zoom, we need more of us here so that we can listen to Sharon play longer, because it'll take longer to make the offering collection. So we dedicate these gifts, as always, to the propagation of this truth that there is only one presence, one power, one love active in all of our lives. And we thank all of you for your generosity in being willing to share this word with the rest of the world. And thank you to our ushers. And thank you to Suzanne for the beautiful flowers. Oh my gosh. Aren't they gorgeous? I love the color combination. It's really very special. So thank you for that. So now is our time to gather together and make a little circle here in the center aisle. And we'll include the people on Zoom as part of that as we sing our song, Love is the Only Power. Love is the only way.
Love is the only power. Love is the only way. Love, love, our love. See our circle grow. Love is the only power. Love is the only way. Love, love, our love. See our circle grow. Love is the only power. Love is the only way. Love, love, our love. See our circle grow.
I invite the brothers and sisters on Zoom now to unmute your microphones and turn on your cameras as we say together our prayer for protection. Together, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us wherever we are. God is, and all is well. Thank God. Amen. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks everybody for showing up, including the president. See you.